So you're interested in a career in real estate. You want to get into this game and play it. You want to do the relentless pursuit of what appears to be easy money. Well, you're at a time in history where interest rates have climbed, real estate has slowed down dramatically, and this can be a challenge. But we're going to talk to you today about the number one thing that I have counseled hundreds, if not thousands, of real estate agents when they start their careers to do first to really set themselves up for success in any market. The reality is this: real estate can be done in any market. It doesn't have to be just in an up market. But if you are currently in the business or thinking about getting in the business, what we're going to talk about today on the War Room channel is the Am I the Chosen One script of how you're going to go to the people that you know and love and find out whether or not they're going to give you business by providing them an easy opportunity. So let's go ahead and get into this. Now, if you like information like this, please consider subscribing to the channel, give us a thumbs up and a comment, and tell me what you're doing in real estate and how that's working out for you. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. So the very first thing that happens when somebody gets in the real estate business is they're like, all right, I'm in business. If you come from the corporate world, 9 out of 10 times, you're thinking, all right, I work for Coca-Cola. People walk in to buy Coke. So I've learned how to service those people and find out what they need and do this stuff. And I want to bring that to real estate. That's wonderful. However, everybody knows a real estate agent. And just because you have a license and you hang your license somewhere doesn't mean somebody's going to walk in the door saying, hey, I'm here to buy Coca-Cola. Can you service me? And this is what happens. People get licenses and they sit around and they just kind of twiddle their thumbs. And they're like, well, we'll wait till this thing actually happens. And they do what's called proximity marketing. Now, proximity marketing is a term that I guess I came up with. And I would consider that where I'm going to wear a name badge, or I have my Keller Williams, app, my logo right here on my shirt. It says I'm with KW. And then I'm just going to go stand really close to somebody and be like, hi. And I'm going to talk to them. And the closer I am, I feel like business should just manifest out of it because I'm wearing a name tag. Now, that can happen. Somebody might go, are you in real estate? And you go, well, yes, I am. It's weird that you should ask. Why do you ask? Well, you're wearing a name badge. That's why I asked. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Well, would you help me buy a piece of real estate? Now, if that's happened to you, awesome. If you expect to make a career out of that, I would tell you based on my personal experience that that's probably not going to happen. What needs to happen is you need to be the informed person and have professional conversations with people. So we're going to segment this. Today is the conversation with the people who know and love you. It is not the conversation with a buyer lead. So like, in other words, you're at an open house and somebody walks in as a buyer. This is not necessarily that conversation. That's a different conversation. That would be the scripts of LP Mama. Those will be the conversations of you asking questions about their wants, needs, and desire to figure out a way to help and demonstrate that you actually have the skill to help them. So that's different. This is to avoid the awkward thing that always seems to happen. And I will give you an example. So what happens is you get in real estate, you post it on Facebook. I'm in real estate. Everybody loves me. Send me referrals. Right? And then you just kind of sit around, and then all of a sudden, maybe you even call your friends and family and you don't really talk about real estate. You just talk to them or at them. And then all of a sudden they turn around and they say, hey, guess what? I just listed my property for sale. Check it out. Help us. If you have a buyer, please bring them. And you're like, well, that was my Aunt Betty. Why didn't Aunt Betty pick me to list their property? And then you call Aunt Betty, and now Aunt Betty has this weird conflict. Now, this is for some people that would actually do the conflict. There are a lot of people who will avoid conflict at all costs and never pick up the phone. But they might call and be like, why didn't you let me listen? Like, oh, I didn't know that you listed in this area. I thought you worked with buyers, or I thought you were busy, or whatever other reasons under the sun. So that's scenario number one. Scenario number two that happens a lot is that you actually have the wherewithal to make phone calls, right? So if you're in this category, if you're in we'll call them scenario 1, scenario 2. If you're in scenario 2 and you have the courage to pick up the phone and call people and ask for business, you probably will do far better in this. This will it will produce for you over time, but there's still a fundamental flaw with it. And I'll give you what that flaw looks like. So here's how that conversation goes. Hello, hey, it's Jason. I just wanted to give you a call. I don't know if you saw online, but I'm in the real estate business, and I was looking to, find some business to work. Do you know anybody that's looking to buy or sell real estate that you could refer to me? And they say, no, I don't. Awesome. If you do, would you be willing to send them? Yes. Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Click. I go, I'm all happy. I'm like, well, they're going to send me referrals. And I write it down and move on to the next one. Well, what happens in that scenario is that's a very direct conversation. And there are certain personalities that really will hide from a direct conversation. Like they'll have, a lot of apprehension about the directness of that. And so you put them in a position to lie or to tell you the truth, but the truth is uncomfortable, right? So this becomes the old hairpiece conversation or the comb over conversation, right? So you have a friend who has, it's going bald. They really don't want to admit it. So they're doing a huge comb over, and then they dive into the water at the pool at the party at your house, and you can see the bald spot and the hair's trailing behind their head. When they come out of the water, they kind of fix it and they go, how do I look? And you're like, you look fantastic. And you lie to them rather than going, that's ridiculous. You should shave your head. Because you're like, well, that seems mean. This is no different than that, right? The reality of this conversation is it feels mean for them. Ring, ring, ring. Hello. Do you know anybody looking to buy or sell? Yes, I do. Awesome. Will you refer them to me? No, I won't. Okay, this conversation's awkward. I don't know what to do anymore. That's not how people tend to behave. What happens is they'll lie to you to spare your feelings because there's probably no way you're going to find out. Let's give an actual example of this. So I have a team member who joined my team and was doing this script that we're going to cover in this video. And in that, she wasn't using that script. She was just calling and talking to people, asking for business, which was fantastic. She ended up calling somebody that she had a loose relationship with because their kids were in scouts together, and asked the person if they knew anybody. They said no. And if they would refer anybody. And they said yes, if they did. So she went back to the database to go put a note in. Now, this is the only reason she was able to find this out. So she types in the name to go put the notes in the database. It pops up. This very individual is actually currently under contract with me. So this sparks a question. She calls me and she says, how are you under contract with one of the sphere in my database? Like, how do you even know them? And I'm like, well, who are we talking about? They mentioned the individual, and it turns out this individual I've known, since 2008. Like, she's known him since 2000, maybe 15. So I've known him way longer. And we currently are in a band together, and we play music together, and we're close friends. I know their family. I've known them since before they got their son. So I've known them for a long, long, long time, right? And so it's like, oh, well, okay, your relationship predates mine, but why didn't they say anything? Because it's uncomfortable. Why should they have to get a surprise phone call where you're doing a business phone call and tell you an uncomfortable thing? And that's the reason people lie to you, because it's nice to lie to you. So what we're going to do is walk through a conversation that allows them to feel comfortable telling you the truth so that you can avoid this. You can avoid the lie, find out the truth, and earn the business. All right, are you ready? So this script is a format, and only one section of it is an actual script that you should probably use and memorize. I learned this from my coach, Michael J. Mayer, who wrote the book, 7 Levels of Communication. In that book and in his course material, he taught me this particular script, which I found to be just exceptionally good. So this script was the script of Am I the Chosen One? But it starts off with FROG. Family, recreation, occupation, goals. If you've heard this in any other format, that's fine. You can use that. But the problem is with some of the other formats like Ford is dreams, you will find yourself reticent to go, so what's your dreams? Tell me your dreams. That's an awkward conversation. Like, who's going to tell you your dreams unless they're like, your spouse? So avoiding awkward conversations, you go with goals. It's easier to say, what goals do you have this year? Now, they could be personal or professional. You have to find a way for it to fit and ask questions to bring value. So what this conversation would look like is first ask about the family. Now, this does not work with leads you do not know because that's awkward. How's your family? And they're like, who are you? So let's get into this. Family. How are things with the family? In this particular section, you're going to ask about them, any of their significant others, if they have family members, if they have dogs, if they have children, their parents, anything you know about them. If you don't know anything about them, you may want to learn more, like, hey, it's been nice getting to know you. By the way, do you guys have kids? Oh, yes, you have 2 kids. What's their names? And then you can go through that. So that's section 1 of the conversation. Section 2 of the conversation is recreation. So this is going to be about what they do for fun. Now, sometimes you ask people, what do you do for fun? The first thing they're going to say to you is, I work. And I'm like, okay, that's what you do with your time, but what do you do for fun? You may want to, dig into this a little bit and, even ask. This might even be a good spot to ask if they have any family vacations coming up, which you can circle back in personal goals later to try to bring value to them. All right, so anything about recreation. If you use social media, you might be able to come back and say, hey, I noticed this weekend the kids played at Hopgood Park. How did the game go? Was it a game? Ask questions about that recreational activity that kind of coincides with family. Section number 3 in this conversation is going to be the section of about work. So if you know what they do, ask about what they do. If you don't know what they do, this is an opportunity to say, so what do you do for a living? I don't know that we've ever had this conversation. Tell me a little bit about what you do for work. And say, do you love it? And you can do follow-up questions. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What's best about it? How long have you been doing it? Where's your office located? Those kinds of questions. This will then lead into the section that most people are out. Most people do FRO, family, recreation, occupation, or they'll do FROB, family, recreation, occupation. I blacked out. They just black out. And they're like, I don't know what else to do in this thing. This real estate business is hard. When you get to goals, if they're in a sales business and it's something you can refer to, you might want to find out and say questions like this. Well, what's an ideal customer for you? What would they look like so that when I see them and I recognize them, I can try to refer them to you? So help me understand your business and your goals so that I can help you reach them if that's possible. In some cases, it's not. Some cases, they do international things and their business comes from overseas, and it's like, I don't know who those people are and I can't really help. So that's going to be part of that question in there. So if they don't, let's just say they work for an accounting law firm and they work at the front desk answering the phones. They're not going to tell you, we would like to have 20 more phone calls a day that I have to answer. That's probably not something they're going to say. So you can ask about, well, what are your goals inside the company? Do you want to climb the corporate ladder? Are you looking to do this long term? If not, what would you rather be doing? And if you're headed towards retirement, when's that going to come? And shift the conversation there. If all else fails, you can always ask about family vacations. I've had a conversation with one of my good friends, and they were like, well, I'm going to Germany because his wife was German. And I'm like, well, do you speak German? He's like, nope. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do when you get over there? Like, everybody's talking and you don't know what's going on. He goes, I'm going to pick up a book. I'm going to figure it out. I'm like, okay. So to bring value to that individual, what I thought I might do was, and it was fairly inexpensive, is I went online and I got a German for Dummies book. And I just had Amazon ship it to his house. And I thought, well, this might be helpful for this individual. Now, mind you, this person has already done business with me, already refers me. So it's not like I was trying to do something to get his business, but I'm just trying to bring value because I figure he's going on a trip. What can I do to be helpful? He's always helpful to me. How do I become helpful to him? And that's what the goal part is. If you find yourself not understanding the goals or a way to help with the goals, you can always ask about the goals themselves. And here's a couple questions. So, hey, so tell me about your goals with this. Awesome. So when do you want to have that done by? What are your next steps? What obstacles are preventing you from hitting those goals? Some of these things will cause people to think, and then you might say, what is your next step and when will you do it? And those are, if they're receptive in the relationship, you can go down that distance. Now, remember, you're not somebody's coach, so you're not having to drive this in there. You want to keep the tension low and just keep it conversational. And so that is the frog portion of this conversation. The next key in this is keep the conversation about them. Depending on the relationship, conversational reciprocity may kick in. If it does, they're going to want to ask about you. And what most people do is they want to find a common ground. So, for example, if I'm talking to one of my good friends, John, and his daughters are musicians. They love to sing and, they love rock and roll. And I have a rock band, right? So, and I'm like, oh, well, me too. If this is the first time I'm finding out about it. And I'm like, well, and then I go, what about me? And check out my guitars. And I have a studio and me, I. And you go, wow, this was awesome. Best conversation ever, commonality. Well, it became about me. So there wasn't value for him. The conversation needs to remain about him or at least balanced. If we do talk about my music or he asks about it, then I go, yeah, well, here's where we're playing and this is what we're doing. What are the girls doing next? When are they performing? How do we support that? And you get into a place where you're looking to bring value. So that's the first part. Frog, family, recreation, occupation, goals. Now you come into the part of the conversation that you should only ever have to have once, unless you're at a reset where you have to take it back to the beginning. And this is the part of the script that you're probably going to want to memorize and internalize so that it sounds like you saying it. And it's very simple. And that's when you get through the goals portion. If conversational reciprocity hits and they say, well, what are your goals? You say, thanks for asking. If they don't, then you can just break right into the conversation and say this. Hey, John, out of curiosity, there's a question I wanted to ask you if that's okay. I'll probably say yes. And say, if you had a friend or family member that's looking to buy or sell or invest in real estate, do you already have a professional that you recommend they call first? And then shut up. Because, and some people are going to be like, and this is where I see this go awry all the time, because they'll be like, well, I don't say things like that. So I'm going to be like, hey, John, if you had a friend or family, you refer him to me, right? Well, you just gave him a command, and if he's a good friend, he's going to go, well, yes, but it wasn't his words, right? So you want to ask the question and make it safe for him to say, well, I know so-and-so. And that is where you're able to get the real conversation going. So, for example, if in my scenario that I told you about earlier, where the agent on my team called somebody from Scouts and had said, hey, if you had a friend or family member looking to buy or sell or invest in real estate, do you already have a professional that you recommend they call first? And if he goes, oh my gosh, do you know Jason Wilson? And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm literally on his team. Then the conversation is a lot easier because you've given them easy permission to tell you the truth. And this truth will help you to understand if there's an opportunity there or if there's not an opportunity. You do not need to fight somebody else for the business. You're looking to bring value to people that may know real estate agents but aren't currently being treated like they're valuable and being brought value to. Those are what I'm trying to look for. Like, do you have somebody and they're like, I know like 8 people, but no, nobody's even cared enough to ask me. Okay, great. Then your next question is, what would it take for me to be that professional? Which means 2 things. How professional do I need to be to earn the right to get an opportunity for you? And what do I need to do specifically to be the real estate agent that you would actually refer? This is where they'll tell you, well, maybe just by asking was enough. Other people will be like, well, get some experience under your belt or tell me about your experience. They might be able to be like, what do you do specifically so that I know how to refer you? Because remember, when somebody puts their name on, hey, call this guy, that's their face out there. So they need confidence that you're going to show up in a way that makes them look good. And that's something you got to earn. Now, if you automatically have that, treasure it. Treat it like gold. Take care of those people. Love them. If they tell you it's somebody else and it's because they're related to them or it's a close family member, then thank them and say, I don't want to break up those relationships or create awkward Thanksgiving. So I really appreciate the opportunity. If you ever have a need outside of those people, consider me or let me know what I would need to do to earn it. right? But then I put them to the side and I honor their existing relationship going from there. If they say somebody else and they happen to not be a real estate agent, actually, let me back up. If they say somebody else, yes, I do have somebody, it's insert a name. Then your next question is, how do you know this person? If they tell you they don't, but they've seen their billboards, there might be an opportunity because nobody's loyal to a billboard. They just happen to refer that because they saw their commercial on their billboard. But if they tell you it's my best friend's cousin's sister's roommate, then I would follow up with, well, it sounds like that's a solid relationship that I don't really want to mess with. I totally respect that. And then I exit the conversation. If they're like, no, I actually hate referring to this person, door open, right? The third thing you'll get is if somebody says a person's name and you go, awesome, how do you know them? And they say, well, he's my financial advisor. Okay, well, that's a different animal. Financial advisor doesn't sell real estate. So they're a gate opener who's giving referrals. That's a different animal that you're going to want to consider. So now you're going to ask, well, could you introduce me? Obviously, can you introduce me? You obviously think highly of this person and I want to meet them. And that's where that conversation goes. When this is all said and done, if they've said you say thank you. If they say, I don't have anybody, what would it take for me to be that professional? Then set up a coffee with them. If they say somebody else, you ask, how do you know them? If they don't really know them and there's an opportunity, set up coffee. If they are their best friend or a family member, then congratulate them and politely exit the conversation. If they say somebody else and it's a financial advisor, get a meeting with a financial advisor because they're a referral source. Find out how you can bring value to them. The key that I want you to take away from this is everything about this is about bringing value to other people, not about taking value. When you bring value, value comes back to you. And that is one of the key things that people miss when it comes to these types of communication. It's always about me. And you might be able to build a business on that. In fact, people have built much bigger businesses than mine on those bases. I just don't care for it. I would rather have somebody want to answer my call because they know I care about them and I want to bring value to them versus that I'm there to take something from them. And reciprocity is a powerful thing. I can tell you that they give back to me in spades, but I have to earn that every single solitary time. I have very good friends that know us on a personal basis and know how funny and familiar we can be in terms of friendships, right? So we hang out a lot and all that stuff. So they might see jokey Jason and not think he's all that professional because they were close with many of our family members. Well, when they got into professional Jason, even though we were close friends, I owed them everything to treat them like a professional, as if they just met me and they hired a real estate agent, how you would want them to behave, to counsel them, make sure that they get taken care of and get the result. And I had one of them where I was really good friends with the husband, and he was also friends with my brother-in-law, and the wife was friends with the family too. But because of I'm just going to call it the joking nature of our relationship, which was very guy joking relationship where there wasn't a serious bone in any conversations we ever had. How can this business professional woman respect me enough to let me represent her in a real estate transaction? But when they opened the door and I showed up as a professional, she was like, whoa, dang, okay. Like, you were answering the questions. I feel prepared. I feel taken care of. I feel safe. And where a lot of people make mistakes is with your friends, you treat them like, well, they're my friends. They're going to be loyal to me, so my standards can be here. And what you should be doing is your standards should always be here. And if you're close friends with them, you might want to stretch a little bit higher simply because familiarity can breed contempt, right? And so professional behavior is always demanded, especially to those that you're in relationship with. That's how you build trust. So this was a long video. I hope you got something out of it, but it really was to go over that script and show you. Remember, friend, recreation, occupation, goal. Then that, if you had a friend or family member looking to buy or sell or invest in real estate, do you have a professional you recommend they call first? What would it take for me to be that professional? And if at any point they say you are, you say thank you. And then you work to earn that every single day. That's it for this particular video. If you like content like this and you made it this far in the video, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment. Let us know what your experience is with your own sphere and database of what it's like to bring value to them. Some people think scripts are like meant to be some voodoo where you go in like, I'm going to say the scripts or you give me business. And it needs to be authentic and genuine. I, honest to God, want to bring value to these people and earn that right. And if I've lost the right to that, that's on me. I am never calling people to manipulate them to do something to give me a piece of business. I'm calling them to, to bring value and to earn the right that if they had a referral, they would bring it to me. And then when they're committed to that process and they're like, I actually want to bring you my referrals, is to help them recognize those referrals because they happen around them and sometimes you're just not aware. If anybody's married, you probably had your spouse talk to you and you were unaware that it was happening around you and you got in trouble for it. That's how referrals are all the time. So thanks so much for tuning in. Hope to see you on the next one.